Hi! So I thought it would be cool to make regular, boring, real-life stuff into cool game stuff, into stuff that looks like it's from a game, because that's cool. People like that. Like, not something that's from a game, but something that could have been in a game. Like, match the art style of it. More like, despite this basically being gamer time crafting hour, I'll call this type of video gamifying and pretend that that's not already a business term because it's funny. Anyway, I was thinking of what to start with, and I was throwing ideas around for gamer time arts and crafts with my brother. For a bit there, I was stuck on Last of Us sunglasses, but then my brother obnoxiously pointed to my head and said, "Do headphones if you're not a coward." I'm not. I am no coward. So even after being questioned by him on how I could make something look cel-shaded in real life, he has a lot of faith in me as an artist, I decided it was a good idea to do Borderlands because of its really cool, cel-shaded, iconic, grungy, super cool art style. So the item I'm doing is not going to be sunglasses, it's my headphones. We've been through a lot together. They're gonna get a Borderlands makeover, so let's make them cool and let's get started. Okay, so here we are. We have the headphones here walking, and I figured it was a good idea to start with a plan. So here's the plan right there. There it is. Here's that. We get it. I would rather not inhale any plastic particles when I sand these headphones, so I'm gonna put on a respirator because we love safety in this house. I sanded it all over with some 80 grit sandpaper just to roughen it all up so that the paint would actually stick, or at least I hope it will. I didn't sand this little vinyl part here because it's actually hollow and there's an air pocket and I don't want to rip that to make it less comfortable. Then I just pop off the little ear cozies so I can get started with the painting. Like I said, I'm using mostly fabric paint. As you can see here, it's the matte kind, which is best for spreading in an even layer. So we'll just yeet some out of the bottle after. Oh, wow, really yeeted. And then I put it on the vinyl part because this is the part I want to avoid first because it's annoying. So I decided to get it out of the way. And we're just gonna ignore the fact that I could have bought black headphones to begin with that weren't blue and I didn't have to paint. So I'll get started with the craft foam, which will make my little three-dimensional pieces to make it look extra super cool on these headphones here. And you can see in the plan that I have a bunch of these little three-dimensional pieces planned out. So I will get started on measuring those bad boys. Here it is, yep, we're measuring that. The little vents and stuff that I'm drawing out here are inspired by the claptrap, which is Hyperion actually, I just found that out. I should have because it's yellow, except for the cop one. I don't actually know what the purpose of little vent things on a robot would be, except for maybe cooling, I suppose, but I don't want to think about that too much. I don't know the weather on Pandora. It's probably hot. Don't want to overheat your claptraps there, I'm sure. The only people who probably want claptrap to overheat are people who played with Fraptrap in Borderlands the pre-sequel because he's the most annoying character to play alongside of. Don't try to deny it, I am not taking critique on this statement at this time. I decided to go with the gray foam even though I had a bunch of color options because it would be the most neutral base to paint on, and I should have thought of this for other aspects of this project because you will see that I did not with a certain yellow. So once I'm done chopping up all those pieces, here they all are. They all have a place they need to go and a purpose, just like all of us. Some of them I do end up making some modifications to, but self-growth is also okay, we stand. And then the vinyl already started to be annoying, so I covered it in a coat of Mod Podge so it wouldn't rip off. And this craft foam had adhesive on the back, which I quickly found out would not work, so I covered that in Mod Podge to see if it would stick better. And it did slide around a lot, so I figured I would use the big guns, the hot glue gun, which did work beautifully. So then I cut off the excess here. I trimmed the craft foam piece that was going on top, realized that the foam with the Mod Podge was too slippy and slidey to dry while it was on a curved area, so I found this little super glue pen that mostly serves as a way to keep the Mod Podge still while it dries. I checked back with the plan to make sure everything was going in order, and I stuck that bad boy on there with the super glue pen once again, and I held it there for a bit while the super glue dried and then the Mod Podge did. Then I applied some more craft foam to the top with the same method, fixed a rip in the vinyl, and continued sticking on every individual little piece with Mod Podge and, when necessary, some super glue. The hot glue didn't stick to the plastic of the headphones very well, but it worked really well for when foam had to go on top of other foam. The most tedious part was the little grates in the vent here, which I had to do twice because there are 2 vents. Because these pieces were teeny tiny, they were a very good candidate for the super glue pen. I ended up cutting more foam pieces than I needed somehow. I cannot for the life of me remember what they were for when I look at them. Maybe the plan wasn't useful. Maybe I should have made a better plan, but here we are, sticking things on that we don't even know what they do. Okay, that one was in the plan, so it's on thin ice, we'll allow it for now. I cut off the excess, adhered the edges with some Mod Podge, and made sure it was dry before I did anything else to it. I kept on going, attaching all the little pieces with mixtures of Mod Podge, super glue, and hot glue, depending on what was needed in that specific area. And I cleaned up literally the bare minimum and did some finishing touches with the foam before adding some final finishing touches with the hot glue gun, like what would look to be like nails or screws in what will eventually look like metal. This is what I like to call an example of trust the process, because I know how it looks now. I am aware. No one is more aware than me of how it looks right now. The ripping vinyl, the scratchy headphones, the dripping hot glue, I know, I'm aware. But it'll be super rewarding once it looks really cool at the end, right? Because, spoiler alert, I'm wearing them right now and they do look cool, so there. Then I fixed the vinyl again and did some actual for realsies final touches with the hot glue gun. Everything was dry. I had an issue. I should have stopped here and thought for a second, but I didn't, so here we are relearning color theory. So here we have light and dark, right? And here's yellow. I know this and am comfortable in my knowledge knowing this, I thought. Now let's say yellow was somewhere at 40% opacity instead of 100. I don't know, sheer yellow paint. Then it would look like this over light or dark. Notice how the light one requires less layers to look a bright yellow. I did not apply a white base because I thought the black would be fine. But here we are in color theory class learning that that's wrong. I mean, look at it, it's rancid. Even after I mixed the fabric paint with some less sheer acrylic paint, it still took like 15 coats, and it took for frickin' ever. Like, seriously, it took a while. But then after 15 coats, it looks like this, yay! The little yellow parts weren't as big of a nuisance as the big one, so this took less time, but still a while, to be honest. Thankfully, literally every other color required only a couple coats, like this metallic color that I'm mixing up with some silver, black, and white that I applied everywhere I wanted to look like metal. The reason I mixed black and white with the silver is because I wanted to produce the metallic sheen with other paint instead of just letting the paint do it itself, because I'm independent. Anyway, I decided to put a piece of craft foam underneath the headphones while I painted them, so that the paint job that I had already finished wouldn't chip off because it hadn't been covered in Mod Podge yet, which I really only do at the really end, so this is just keeping it safe for now. I cleaned up the edges with some black. 99% will be satisfied. More satisfied if I didn't jump cut around like this, but oh my god, look at the yellow! But look at the metal, it's fun and it's fresh, and it looks pretty cool for a base coat. Anyway, I painted everything else that needed to appear metal-like, which was essentially everything else that was made out of craft foam, just the little daubs of hot glue. This is what it looks like when it dries. You can see that it actually kind of does look like metal. And I moved on to cleaning up more of those edges with some black. And honestly, this part was the best part to do because it made everything come together and it made me trust the process. Like I said, cover up some of the horrid yellow. Covering up the translucent yellow is therapy at this point. because the toll painting those yellow coats on took on me was disgusting. Black paint never betrayed me in this way. Black paint would treat me right. Then I checked if the white paint was dry. It wasn't. And then with more fabric paint, I mixed up some color to put on the yellow on top to give it some more depth and to make it look dirtier or kind of weathered. Because let's be honest, Pandora is probably not like the most amazing place to live. It's probably a little rough up there. I mixed the paint with some water to give it some variation in opacity, which made me the most nervous out of everything I did because I was always taught water plus electronics equals bad. And then I stuck a pin in the metal port, which didn't make me nervous at all. Yeah, water's what I should be nervous about here. See?
Oh my god, this is stressful to watch.
And then I literally brought a knife to it to remove the excess paint. So maybe I shouldn't have been nervous if I was just gonna be bold like oh my god. So then I scraped away the paint on the buttons. Really casually, it seems, and I remember doing this casually. I don't know why it is so painful to watch. Seriously, who does this? This is difficult to observe. It's kind of satisfying in a weird break your electronics kind of way, but still difficult. Now that that's over, I add some depth to the metal sections with some black paint to once again age and weather it. And something I should mention is that these are such an awkward shaped object that I had no idea how to keep them in frame while also painting them effectively. Then with some white paint, I do some highlights on the edges to make it look cel shaded because the black actually makes it harder to do the black outline that is classic in the Borderlands style. But the white paint actually does make it look pretty good. So I add that to the nails and the edges and everything I want to kind of pop. Add this little blue glowing section to add some difference to all the yellow and gray and black. And then I added the white stripe that is part of the Hyperion logo. I always thought Hyperion was pretty cool. I don't know why I feel this way. To add to the weathered effect, I add some yellow on top of the white to make it look like the white paint has kind of been scratched off over time, but that didn't work, so I just wipe away the white with a paper towel and then clean it up with some more white. Then I get out a straight edge so that I can put on the Hyperion logo. I mostly just drew the downstrokes at first so that I could get the spacing correct, and getting the spacing correct turned out to be an issue. We're left with whatever this is. Yeah, it's not ideal. Once I fixed that, we were left with Perry. Borderlands headphones? Perry the Borderlands headphones? Anyway, here's what it looked like after I fixed it, and it keels over in laughter at my Doofenshmirtz impression. I only painted the H on camera because of the weird angle, but I promise the rest look like this. And there's it all filled in. At this point, it was time to do the actual cel shading and make everything a black outline, which I really hesitated to start with because I didn't want to ruin anything. And there we go. Again, the black outline didn't really need to be perfect because of the art style of the game, and nothing in it is really clean cut or clean shaven, and that's what makes it charming, among other things. Honestly, this part was the most fun to do because it made everything kind of come together and really look like it was like cel shaded, but in the real world. I trusted the process and it paid off. Why is my head in frame? Anyway, I was looking at this picture of Claptrap from the Borderlands 3 promotional material to make sure I got all the nuances of the cel shading correct, like the little dots that seem to be everywhere and the little lines that make everything look extra grungy and Pandora-y. Even though the black doesn't show that well on the metal, it still makes it look extra cel shaded. I had to hold myself back because I only wanted minimal highlights on this instead of doing the whole thing, which I would usually do. I mean, I just love highlights, man. Ask any artist with a white pen and they will tell you that they overuse it, because I know I do. Then as a final touch, I mixed up some rusty color to add to the entire thing. In spontaneous spurts, we'll say. Bob Ross would say we're getting a little crazy. See? It's crazy. I dab it in with my finger to make it blend in better, and then I continue doing that on every place I want to look a little extra worn than it already is. I think this worked especially well on the lighter colors like the yellow and the white. And then after everything, I add a dummy thick coat of Mod Podge to make sure everything stays put, especially that naughty vinyl. I pop the earmuffs back on. Are they even called earmuffs? Anyway, I pop them back on, and then we're done. Cue a cute little montage to show them off. So that was a super fun experience. I think they turned out really nice. They're still super comfortable. They don't feel like weird or anything. And they look so cool on camera. Check it out. This is Hyperion. And I'd love to do more like this because it was really fun. So I hope to see you in another video. I'll see you later.